In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Welcome, friends, to Crime and Punishment, a legal podcast, not political. This is the totally apolitical podcast of the Invictus Law Firm, PA, a criminal defense law firm in Orlando, Florida. The website for which is augustusinvictus.com, and that is me, yours truly, the host of this program. I used to open by saying we are simulcasting to a bunch of programs. Right now, we're only simulcasting to Twitter and YouTube because Restream changed its options. So we've downgraded. However, the good news is I remembered the links this time. So this is the link to the new newsletter, which we actually published today. I'm also getting the link to the viral style, so that you can give us some of that delicious t-shirt money. Please let us know if you can hear the program. All four of you out there. I'm going to talk today about persecution of the right wing in America, and thank God for that. Because the right wing has become divisive, especially these MAGA Republican extremists who invaded the Capitol, the very heart of democracy in this country. Largest prosecution in the history of the United States. This J6 business. And thank God, it shows the power. It shows the power of our federal government, the power of democracy, the power of free ideas. It's reminiscent of George Washington, really. And Shays' Rebellion, the Whiskey Rebellion. These people don't want to pay taxes to the new federal government. Well, we'll see about that. We'll have Washington himself ride out on a white horse and crush the rebellion. These divisive extremists will not hail the constitutionally constituted republic that we made out of these sovereign states that are no longer sovereign. We are now the United States, and we must crush any rebellion. Certainly any refusal to pay taxes. And now, President Joe Biden, our modern George Washington, has openly declared war on MAGA Republicans. And, of course, Donald Trump, who is their nefarious leader. And thank God. The one article that I wanted to talk about today before we talk about Joe Biden's heroic speech this past week is about a lawyer who was arrested in connection with the Capitol riot. ABA, the American Bar Association, they called the J6 event a riot, the U.S. Capitol riot. Of course, we at Crime and Punishment, we who support whoever's in power at the moment, we know that it was an insurrection. But the ABA journal is being typically conservative with this article published September 2nd, as this past Friday. By the way, well, first of all, the title of the article is Top Lawyer for Oath Keepers is Charged in Connection with January 6th U.S. Capitol Riot. We are not going to be able to do Fridays anymore. We're going to experiment with Tuesday. Friday afternoons just aren't going to fly. It's not in the cards anymore. So let's see if this is going to work today. Doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it's working out. Somebody's in the chat using profanity. That's not very nice. Let's see if the audio is working. Audio appears to be working. So, top lawyer for Oath Keepers is charged in connection with January 6th U.S. Capitol riot. The top lawyer for the Oath Keepers militia was arrested in Junction, Texas on Thursday. That is last Thursday, September 1st. And charged in connection with the January 6, 2021 U.S. Capitol attack. Kelly Sorrell, 43, was charged with conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, a certification of the Electoral College vote, obstructing the same proceeding and aiding and abetting others to do the same, entering and remaining in a restricted area, that is, on the Capitol grounds, and obstruction of justice for persuading and trying to persuade others to withhold and destroy documents. That's a lot of charges. A lot of charges for someone who didn't go inside the building. A lot of charges for a lawyer who was advising people on what was legal at the time. Allegedly. This is a grand jury that indicted this woman. Count 1, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding. Count 2, obstruction of an official proceeding and aiding and abetting. Count 3, entering and remaining in a restricted building or grounds, of course the Capitol. And count 4, obstruction of justice, tampering with documents. Now, this is the indictment itself. It's not exactly fact-laden, we'll say. In fact, there are no facts in the grand jury's indictment. So we are stuck with what the ABA Journal is reporting. The website for Sorrell's law office in Granbury, Texas, said she is a former prosecutor skilled in civil litigation, trial practice, criminal justice, family law, and mediation. The website identified Sorrell as the Oath Keepers' general counsel and said after the 2020 presidential election, she jumped into action to assist the legal teams challenging the election results. Sorrell was released on her own recognizance after a court hearing on Thursday. So, we have already seen this whole thing playing out for a long time. Rudy Giuliani got a bar complaint. I'm pretty sure he was disciplined by the New York bar for helping Trump, for saying that these elections were stolen or they were fraudulent or so there was some funny business going on. You can't say that. As a lawyer, you're part of the system. Remember that line in 1984? Only the proles are free. Like common folk, the regular people, grocery store clerks, taxi drivers, they can say the election was stolen, but not you. Not you, Rudy Giuliani. You're one of the players. You're a lawyer. A top dog lawyer, by the way. Former mayor of New York City, Trump administration guy. You can't say things like that. No, you are part of the game. You're not allowed to challenge the game, the system in which you found so much prominence. It's like that episode of South Park where everybody's urinating in the Kool-Aid. Like, you can't do that, Rudy. So we've seen other lawyers being attacked, disciplined by the bar, the whole 9 yards for being election deniers. And justly so, because how dare you question elections in America, where everybody's on the same page. Everybody wants to make sure that the votes are counted. It's not the Soviet Union. We're not communists after all. We believe in democracy, not like those Soviets. They believed in communism. Even though they said they believed in democracy, what they really believed in was Stalin. We believe in democracy. You cannot challenge elections in this country. It would delegitimize the whole thing. You would be urinating in the Kool-Aid. The lawyer was released on her own recognizance after a court hearing Thursday. That means she didn't have to pay bond. They just let her go, right? She's not a threat to society. She's not a flight risk. She's released on her own recognizance. That's what that means. Quote, jails need better accommodations, end quote, she tweeted, along with a laughing, crying emoji. 1 star from this gal, cold and sterile. That was her commentary on going to jail. See how funny she thinks it is after she starts her 5 to 10 year sentence coming up. Publications with coverage of the arrest include Law 360, the New York Times, and the Washington Post, who, I'm sure, were all gloating about it. According to the New York Times, there is no evidence that Sorrell entered the Capitol building, but she was with the crowd outside that included Stuart Rhodes, the founder and leader of the Oath Keepers, a far-right anti-government militia. She was also said to be with Rhodes during a parking lot meeting with the leader of the Proud Boys, a far-right organization that promotes and engages in political violence. Again, this is the American Bar Association. It's not to be questioned. They're not political. They're as apolitical, at least as apolitical, as we here at Crime and Punishment. So if they tell you The Proud Boys is a far-right organization that promotes and engages in political violence, that's the case. The lawyer is not representing Oath Keepers members charged in the Capitol riot. The articles noted that Sorrell was not charged with the serious offense of seditious conspiracy, which carries a sentence of up to 20 years in prison. Rhodes, however, is facing that charge. He is a Yale Law School graduate, according to Law 360. Do you see a pattern here? This woman never went into the building. She is outside in the crowd, allegedly advising people on what is legal. She's not even acting as the lawyer for the people who did go inside the building, not acting as a lawyer for any of the J6 defendants. But she is a lawyer. You can't be mixed up in this stuff if you're a lawyer. Is that message not clear to you by now? After Rudy Giuliani, Lynn Wood, now this lady, Kelly Sorrell, and let's not forget Stuart Rhodes, whom the ABA points out was a Yale Law School graduate. Stuart Rhodes is a lawyer, and he is now charged with sedition. Who is the last person in this country even charged with sedition? I honestly don't know. But it certainly hasn't been seen in our generation. Afternoon, everybody. It is 15:16. I want to show you the inspiring speech given at Independence Hall by our president. We've been talking for the past several minutes about the persecution of right-wing lawyers, whether they're actually defending people or not. And let me back the trolley up here. I forget his name, but there was a lawyer who was representing a bunch of the Proud Boys in the J6 cases. I want to say he had like 20 of these cases. I mean, just huge into the whole thing. Ended up like disappearing. Nobody knew where he was. Resurfaces all of the sudden, is charged with numerous crimes, or at least bar complaints, for unauthorized practice of law in jurisdictions all over the country. Just comes back on the radar, boom. He's charged with all these crazy things. Again, don't do that if you're a right-wing lawyer. In fact, it's better you just don't be in the right wing at all. Don't have sympathies. Don't have any political views whatsoever. I'm telling you from experience, you don't want to do it. If you're a lawyer, just do the smart thing. Keep your head down. Love Big Brother. Support whoever happens to be in power at the moment. Just be a weather vane. You're like politicians. Just do whatever the media tells you you should do. Whoever's in power, that's who's in power. It's not your job as a lawyer to challenge that. It's not your job to say elections were stolen, that there was fraud by mail-in ballot. It's not your job. That's political people's job. You're a lawyer. Don't be political unless it's in support of the people in power, right? Or the left wing, which is always in power, really. So let's just disabuse you all of that right now. I was talking to a friend, Dr. Fraser Crane, as a matter of fact. You've seen him grace our program with his presence before. He was the one who pointed out this magnificent speech that we are about to uncover for you, if you haven't seen it already. I've never been more on fire. After seeing this speech, I found a new flame in my life. But we were talking about the fact that the institutions have been taken over, and there's this massive, movement inside of a movement, this cultural shift. It's not really a shift, it's a landslide. It's something that's been going on forever now. They call it anti-intellectualism, whatever you want to call it. It's a real thing. This thing where right-wingers, conservatives, Catholics, evangelicals, they say, don't send your kids to school. Just homeschool them. Not that I'm criticizing homeschool. I'm saying this is a massive thing. Don't send them to homeschool. Don't let them go to college. Tell them to get a trade, right? Be an electrician. Be a farmer. Something that doesn't involve higher education, because they're all corrupt. And you're going to send your kid off there and they're going to come out, some Marxist lunatic chopping off their genitals. A valid concern, I grant you. However, we need lawyers. And by we, I mean we, the American people. We, the people of the United States of America. Not we right-wingers. I have no political views. But if you're going to just cede ground, just say, you know what, you can have the presidency, you can have the Senate, you can have the House. We happen to have the United States Supreme Court, but once they get rid of Clarence Thomas and they get rid of all the Catholics on there, and they fill them up with, Marxists, great, you can have that too, because we all knew that the Supreme Court was no good anyway. You can have colleges, you can have the military academy, all the academies, you can have the Ivy League, you've already had that forever, right? You can have the Naval Academy, West Point, Air Force Academy. We don't even want to go. We're going to be tradesmen. We're going to, be electricians and farmers, and you guys have all that. We don't care. While I understand the concern for your children, does that really seem like a viable long-term strategy? To not have anyone in positions of power? Not have anyone educated in law or politics or even history at a graduate level? No business people or professors or doctors? That cannot be a winning long-term strategy. But that aside, let's listen to this inspiring speech. It was sent to me by the very man with whom I had that conversation. And please let me know if you cannot hear this. It's the Hail to the Chief song playing right now.
My fellow Americans, please, if you have a seat, thank you.
All 5 of you, have a seat.
I speak to you tonight from sacred ground in America, Independence Hall in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is where America made its Declaration of Independence to the world more than 2 centuries ago with an idea unique among nations, that in America, we're all created equal. This is where the United States Constitution was written and debated. This is where we set in motion the most extraordinary experiment of self-government the world has ever known. With 3 simple words: we the people, we the people. These 2 documents and the ideas they embody, equality and democracy, are the rock upon which this nation is built. They're how we became the greatest nation on earth. They're why, for more than 2 centuries, America has been a beacon to the world. But as I stand here tonight, equality and democracy are under assault. We do ourselves no favor to pretend otherwise. So tonight, I've come to this place where it all began to speak as plainly as I can to the nation about the threats we face, about the power we have in our own hands to meet these threats, and about the incredible future that lies in front of us if only we choose it. We must never forget, we the people are the true heirs of the American experiment that began more than 2 centuries ago. We the people have burning inside of each of us the flame of liberty that was lit here at Independence Hall. A flame that lit our way through abolition, the Civil War, suffrage, the Great Depression, world wars, civil rights. That sacred flame still burns. Now in our time, as we build an America that is more prosperous, free, and just. That is the work of my presidency, a mission I believe in with my whole soul. But first, we must be honest with each other and with ourselves. Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
And we're off. And we're off. For those of you who have not seen this video yet, President Biden is in Independence Hall in Philadelphia. He keeps saying it over and over. Of course, there's the American flag backdrop, the Great Seal of the Presidency of the United States. And then he's flanked by Marines. And the brick is lit up in red light. I've heard it likened to an Emperor Palpatine speech, and it really does look like that. I mean, God bless him. We thought we were metal. We thought we were hardcore. Joe Biden has done what every political leader I've ever known wanted to do. This is, it's amazing. The aesthetics of this, just the outright vulgar display of power in this speech. It's amazing. He opens for the first 3 minutes with "We the people, founding fathers, unite the country," so on and so forth. Then immediately attacks MAGA Republicans. They're the dividers. They're divisive. Election deniers. Charlottesville. On down the line. It's brilliant. Whoever wrote this speech, whoever masterminded this entire battle for the soul of a nation speech, which it will be known for all history, it will be known as the Battle for the Soul of the Nation speech by President Joseph Biden. Just brilliant. But here we go. Now that we've talked about unity and our great history, and he has invoked the golden age of America, now we find out who is the enemy threatening that great legacy. Well, of course, it's the people who have been invoking the Founding Fathers the entire time. It's the people saying, let's go back to that Constitution thing that we all started with. Those are obviously the enemies. Let's listen further.
Now, I want to be very clear up front. Not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology. I know, because I've been able to work with these mainstream Republicans. But there's no question
sellout Republicans.
That the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country. These are hard things. But I'm an American president, not a president of red America or blue America, but of all America. And I believe it's my duty to level with you, to tell the truth, no matter how difficult, no matter how painful. And here, in my view, is what is true. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people. They refuse to accept the results of a free election. And they're working right now, as I speak, in state after state, to to give power to decide elections in America to partisans and cronies, empowering election deniers to undermine democracy itself.
Amazing. Just incredible. You can't question the legitimacy of the election. You cannot ask for recounts. You cannot help people doing that if you are a lawyer. Notice that this news came out, literally this news about this woman helping the Oath Keepers, the lawyer that we talked about at the beginning of the program, the same day that this speech came out. One thing I did not post to Twitter because I just don't have the time for it. Taking screenshots, editing it, doing a thread, the whole thing that people do on Twitter. Like I've got a real, like a big boy job here to do, so I can't do it. But you can go look for it yourself. Just go to Twitter, type in the little search machine there, I am Antifa. And you will see a disturbing wealth of posts by people posting themselves in their military uniforms with their military records. Naval Academy, class of 88. 1988, don't hate speech strike me here. U.S. Naval Academy, class of 1988. U.S. Army, Green Berets. U.S. Army, Fort whatever, 1984. Like, it's got their picture and it's got where they were serving at the time, and it says, I am Antifa. That was Tuesday, which was August 30th, that this whole thing exploded on Twitter. And I thought to myself, this is super disturbing, and something is about to happen where, this whole thread of, well, the military is all Antifa. If you have a problem with that, you're a fascist. Antifa defeated the Nazis. Antifa won 2 world wars. All of us who are military members, we are Antifa. And if you have a problem with that, you are a fascist. That whole thing started coming out, and I thought to myself, something is about to happen. There is, whether it's, Russian bots or White House bots, or just something in the collective unconscious where everyone is finding expression of this thing at a moment of crisis impending, right? I knew something would happen. In this speech, it validated everything for me. This amazing speech. Let's continue listening to it.
MAGA forces are determined to take this country backwards to an America where there is no right to choose.
Oh, no.
No right to privacy.
Oh, no.
No right to contraception. No right to marry who you love.
Terrible.
They promote authoritarian leaders, and they fan the flames of political violence that are a threat to our personal rights.
Just awful.
To the pursuit of justice, to the rule of law, to the very soul of this country. They look at the mob that stormed the United States Capitol on January 6th, brutally attacking law enforcement, not as insurrectionists who placed a dagger at the throat of our democracy, but they look at them as patriots. And they see their MAGA failure to stop a peaceful transfer of power after the 2020 election as preparation for the 2022 and 2024 elections. They tried everything last time to nullify the votes of 81 million people. This time, they're determined to succeed in thwarting the will of the people. That's why respected conservatives like Federal Circuit Court Judge Michael Ludwig has called Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans, quote, a clear and present danger to our democracy.
Powerful words. You know what I really love about this speech? You would think that in a democracy, we talk about soft power, we talk about consensus building, the will of the people, pluralism, yada, 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 so on and so forth, right? You have an election that is contested by maybe not half the country, okay, but certainly a large portion of the country, right? I mean, a lot of people, bigly. And instead of having all these people, law professors and, I don't know, Nancy Pelosi, supporters of the president, coming out and giving this speech, anybody could have given this speech, right? Kamala Harris could have given this speech. And it would have been, the vice president's elected, whatever, but really the election is obviously over the president, right? Anybody but the president could have given this speech, and it would have been seen as supportive. It would have been seen as, look, redirect the anger over this way. This person is supporting this. This person is, attacking MAGA Republicans, and kind of give the president plausible deniability. That would have been the smart thing. That would have been what you would expect in a democracy. They did not do that. And that's what I love about this speech. They went all out war. All out. This man is the president. He was rightly, the president was rightly elected, right? If it had been Kamala Harris or Nancy Pelosi or any guy in the administration saying he was elected rightly, you people are out of line, that would have been the soft power thing, the consensus building thing. But to have the president himself come out and attack every detractor, attack everyone who dares to say he was illegitimately elected to public office, flanked by Marines at Independence Hall with a red background, saying anyone who questions my election is an enemy of the state. Oh, like I said, we thought we were metal. Joe Biden, I just pulled the power play of the century, right? Everybody wants to hate on Richard Spencer for supporting Joe Biden. Everybody wants to hate on Joe Biden himself, this senile, delusional old man. They say, look at this speech. This is the most dictatorial speech, certainly in my lifetime, that I've ever seen. And I don't think anybody's giving Joe Biden the credit he deserves in this situation. Let's continue on.
But while the threat to American democracy is real, I want to say as clearly as we can, we are not powerless in the face of these threats. We are not bystanders in this ongoing attack on democracy. There are far more Americans from every background and belief who reject the extreme MAGA ideology than those that accept it. And folks, it's within our power. It's in our hands, yours and mine.
While we're hearing the applause in this beautiful speech, I'd like to point out how you feel bad when there's only 18 people watching your live stream until you realize the President of the United States only has about 18 people in real life at Independence Hall watching what is perhaps the most epic speech of our lifetimes.
To stop the assault on American democracy. I believe America is at an inflection point. One of those moments that determine the shape of everything that's to come after. And now, America must choose to move forward or to move backwards, to build a future or obsess about the past, to be a nation of hope and unity and optimism, or a nation of fear, division, and of darkness. MAGA Republicans have made their choice. They embrace anger. They thrive on chaos. They live not in the light of truth, but in the shadow of lies. But together we can choose a different path. We can choose a better path forward to the future. A future of possibility, a future to build and dream and hope. And we're on that path moving ahead. I know this nation. I know you, the American people. I know your courage. I know your hearts. And I know our history. This is a nation that honors our Constitution. We do not reject it. This is a nation that believes in the rule of law. We do not repudiate it. This is a nation that respects free and fair elections. We honor the will of the people. We do not deny it. And this is a nation that rejects violence as a political tool. We do not encourage violence. We are still an America that believes in honesty and decency and respect for others. Patriotism, liberty, justice for all, hope, possibilities. We are still, at our core, a democracy. And yet, history tells us that blind loyalty to a single leader and a willingness to engage in political violence is fatal to democracy.
Blind loyalty to a single leader and the willingness to engage in violence is fatal to democracy. Amazing. What an epic line. Delivered by the president attacking all detractors of the legitimacy of his election while flanked by Marine Corps and Independence Hall invoking the golden age of America. It's genius. I love it.
For a long time, we've told ourselves that American democracy is guaranteed, but it's not. We have to defend it, protect it, stand up for it, each and every one of us. That's why tonight I'm asking our nation to come together, unite behind the single purpose of defending our democracy regardless of your ideology. We're all called by duty and conscience to confront extremists who put their own pursuit of power above all else. Democrats, independents, mainstream Republicans. We must be stronger, more determined, and more committed to saving American democracy than MAGA Republicans are to destroying American democracy. We, the people, will not let anyone or anything tear us apart. Today, there are dangers around us we cannot allow to prevail. We here, you've heard it, more and more talk about violence as an acceptable political tool in this country. It's not. It can never be an acceptable tool. So I want to say this plain and simple. There is no place for political violence in America, period. None, ever.
As he is standing at the podium, flanked by Marines, in Independence Hall, invoking the Founding Fathers who committed high treason against the crown. This country is founded on political violence. It's founded on not just the legitimacy of political violence, but the sanctity of political violence if the government is corrupt. And here this man is, in this glorious picture of ultimate authoritarianism, saying political violence is absolutely unacceptable, especially if you are questioning the legitimacy of my election. It's just amazing. It's like out of a movie.
We saw law enforcement brutally attacked on January 6th. We've seen election officials, poll workers, many of them volunteers of both parties, subject to intimidation and death threats. And can you believe it? FBI agents, just doing their job as directed, facing threats to their own lives from their own fellow citizens.
Redcoats, just doing their jobs. Their lives threatened by their own fellow subjects of the crown. Can you believe these founding fathers? Can you believe these treasonists who would threaten the lives of our redcoats just doing their jobs. Likewise, the FBI just doing what they're told. And they have to suffer these vicious attacks from these MAGA Republicans. Not once does he spell out MAGA as Make America Great Again. MAGA has become like Nazi is short for National Socialist, Nationalsozialista, right? It's not Make America Great Again anymore. It's not National Socialist anymore. It's MAGA and it's Nazi, and those two are interchangeable now.
On top of that, there are public figures today, yesterday, and the day before predicting and all but calling for mass violence and rioting in the streets. This is inflammatory. It's dangerous. It's against the rule of law. And we, the people, must say, this is not who we are. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American.
I love that one. That is perhaps my favorite line in the entire speech. We cannot be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American. Not just because the historical Pandora's box that opens, but because he is saying that standing at a podium in Independence Hall, of all places. He is invoking the Founding Fathers, who were actual insurrectionists who killed redcoats. I mean, by the thousands. Who actually waged a war against their rightful government. We cannot be insurrectionists and pro-American, he says, while standing there. Pure 1984. It's surreal. It's like Salvador Dali has written the 21st century.
Incompatible. We can't allow violence to be normalized in this country. It's wrong. We each have to reject political violence with all the moral clarity and conviction this nation can muster. Now, we can't let the integrity of our elections be undermined, for that is a path to chaos. Look, I know politics can be fierce and mean and nasty in America. I get it. I believe in the give and take of politics, in disagreement and debate and dissent. We're a big, complicated country. But democracy endures only if we, the people, respect the guardrails of the republic. Only if we, the people, accept the results of free and fair elections. Only if we, the people, see politics not as total war, but mediation of our differences.
You can disagree all you want, as long as you respect the guardrails. Only if you accept the election results can we continue on as America, as we the people. Only if you refuse to question the election results, you don't support these election deniers, only then will I consider you respectful and say you are not a MAGA Republican and you are not on the slate for destruction. Only if you are not questioning me and my legitimacy, then you can say whatever you want online. Feel free. It's your Facebook account.
Democracy cannot survive when one side believes there are only two outcomes to an election. Either they win or they were cheated. And that's where the MAGA Republicans are today. They don't understand what every patriotic American knows. You can't love your country only when you win. It's fundamental. American democracy only works only if we choose to respect the rule of law and the institutions that were set up in this chamber behind me. Only if we respect our legitimate political differences. I will not stand by and watch. I will not, the will of the American people, be overturned by wild conspiracy theories and baseless evidence-free claims of fraud. I will not stand by and watch elections in this country stolen by people who simply refuse to accept that they lost. I will not stand by and watch the most fundamental freedom in this country, the freedom to vote, and have your vote counted and be taken from you and the American people. Look, as your president, I will defend our democracy with every fiber of my being, and I'm asking every American to join me. Throughout our history, America has often made the greatest progress coming out of some of our darkest moments, like you're hearing that bullhorn. I believe we can and must do that again, and we are. MAGA Republicans look at America and see carnage and darkness and despair. They spread fear and lies. Lies told for profit and power. But I see a different America. An America with an unlimited future. An America that's about to take off. I hope you see it as well. Just look around.
How could you see carnage and darkness and despair? How could you not see an America that's about to take off? Do you see carnage and millions of children being aborted every year? How could you see that? How could you see darkness and despair when children are just being read stories by drag queens, taken to drag clubs, told that they can cut off their own genitals? How could you see carnage, darkness, and despair in that? Don't you see America is about to take off? How could you see anything wrong with what's going on right now? You election deniers, you extremists, you MAGA Republicans, insurrectionists. The legitimate third branch of the country said that, as a matter of fact, Roe v. Wade, this opinion that allowed abortion on demand, was wrong, and we should never have had that authority, and the states should rule on this. That is turning back the clock. Don't respect that branch of the government. Respect this branch, the executive branch. Respect me, the president, who was rightfully elected, democratic elections, equality and democracy. And if you attack that or you don't believe in that, you too are an extremist. You see nothing but carnage, darkness, and despair. You are not part of the future. You are not going to be there when America takes off.
I believe we could lift America from the depths of COVID. So we passed the largest economic recovery package since Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And today, America's economy is faster, stronger than any other advanced nation in the world. We have more to go. I believe we could build a better America. So we passed the biggest infrastructure investment since President Dwight D. Eisenhower. And we've now embarked on a decade of rebuilding the nation's roads, bridges, highways, ports, water systems, high-speed internet, railroads. I believe we could make America safer. So we passed the most significant gun safety law since President Clinton. I believe we could go from being the highest cost of prescriptions in the world to making prescription drugs and healthcare more affordable. So we passed the most significant healthcare reform since President Obama signed the Affordable Care Act. And I believe we could create a clean energy future and save the planet. So we passed the most important climate initiative ever, ever, ever. The cynics and the critics tell us nothing can get done, but they're wrong. There is not a single thing America cannot do, not a single thing beyond our capacity if we do it together. It's never easy, but we're proving that America, no matter how long the road, progress does come.
no matter how long the road, progress does come. I don't know how you could listen to that speech and not want to go out there and make some progress, everybody. Check out the chat for the link to the newsletter. All right. Inside that newsletter, you're going to find the viral style, but I tell you what, I'm going to do you one better, and I'm going to put it in there in the chat myself. Hola from Florida. To Brian, who says, good afternoon from the extremist west. Good afternoon from the totally apolitical south. So, what an inspiring day. I'm glad you all were with me to listen to this historic speech by our greatest president. Maybe next week we'll have something even cooler to talk about, but I really doubt it. Till then, everybody.